Today on Pots and Trowels we're planting and pruning soft fruit bushes, and that's brought to you with the support of Darlac and Cobra Garden. Hello, welcome to Pots and Trowels. Well, here we are in the veg plot down at Dennis. There's not a lot happening at the moment. It's end of February and it's still fairly cold here in North Yorkshire and the ground's pretty wet. We've had some heavy rain over the last couple of weeks, so I'm trying to keep off the garden as much as possible, but what I am going to be doing is doing a little bit of planting and going to show you how you can prune soft fruit bushes, because this is the ideal time if you want to introduce some soft fruit in your garden, be it gooseberries, red currants, white currants. Now is the time to get them in the ground, and you can grow them in many different ways. Traditionally, the way you would grow them is as a bush. So this is a young blackcurrant bush here, one that I grew from a cutting a few years ago, and you can see it's now making some quite strong growth on it. And with blackcurrants, the fruit is always produced on the last season's growth. So this is the wood here that it made last year. Now this is only a small plant in a pot. If this were in the garden and established, this growth would be twice the length of that and much stronger. Once it's fruited, it doesn't fruit again, and this is again another small one in a pot. You can see the remains of where this one fruited last year, and then it's made some extension growth that will fruit this year. This one's ready for planting out. It's desperately getting hungry now. So we prune these slightly differently, and what we tend to do with these when they're fruited is we cut out some of the wood that's produced the fruit to make way for the new growth that will then fruit for you the following year. So that's what you do with black currants, and we're going to plant one of those in a minute. But when it comes to red currants and white currants, and gooseberries are the same, they fruit on older wood, and I've got one here that is technically a bush, a young bush, but you could quite easily, if you wanted to, prune this into a shape if you wanted to. But what we've got here, we've got this growth, this new growth that was made last year, growing from the older wood there. And what you could do with this one if you wanted to is to make this into what we call a cordon, a single stem, like I'm doing with this one just here. So the idea is we get one main stem and then we have lots of little side shoots growing off it, and this one would make an ideal candidate for that. So what I'm going to do, first of all, these branches at the bottom, these are going to be in the way, so I'm going to take those out completely. I would leave them on, of course, if I wanted this to be a bush. So they're too low to produce fruit as a cordon, so we can take those off. Now don't waste those, because if you've got any growth like this on any of your currant bushes, we can make cuttings. This is how I grow these. So what you do is cut just below a bud with a pair of secateurs, and then about the length of a secateurs in length, and then just cut above a bud, and that is our cutting. If you've got a flat cut on the bottom and a pointy cut at the top, you always know which way it goes. And that's a hardwood cutting, and there is still time to take those, push those into a pot or into the garden, and they will root and make growth for you this year. So don't throw all of those away. But to turn this into a cordon, I'm now going to prune back all these side shoots. So we've got the main stem here, and I'm going to cut them back to just 2 or 3 inches to a bud. That one's already had some fruit on it last year. That's the old fruit stem. So I'm going to cut it back, and we can see them. We get these little fat buds here, and these are going to be the fruit buds. So it's just a case of working our way up, pruning back. That one there, just above a bud, and this one here, just above a bud, and so on, all the way up. That's a dead piece. Now we've got to make a new lead shoot here, so that one will be tied to the cane, and this one will be cut back. So that is now the start of our cordon red currant bush. I'll tie that to that cane. That will carry on growing. These will then produce some fruit from these short little spurs, and then what they will do in the summer is make extension growth, and then what I'll do again this time next year is cut them back. So it's an annual process, and in time we get this wonderful column of fruiting spurs, and the fruit will just hang there. So that's a couple I've got now of my red currants that I'm going to plant out against a wall or a fence, and you only need to plant them about 2 feet apart, so you can grow lots of fruit in a small area. You can grow them in pots on a patio or on a balcony. This one here I've started to train as a fan, Again, ideal for growing in a pot. This one really now needs to go into a slightly bigger pot, but again, you can put them in the garden. And what I've done is, when I've got that growth at the base, what I've done is just fanned it out, as you can see, onto these 5 canes. And again, it's an annual job of just going around and just tidying it up, cutting off these side shoots here, just working your way up and shortening them back. I've already done this in the summer to shorten them, so I've already done some of the pruning, but you can see what we're doing is working our way up each one, just taking the tips out and leaving on the fruiting spurs, and that will again produce fruit on these short little growths we've got up there. So it keeps a really nice formal shape, and you get lots of fruit from a small area in the garden. So just different ways that you can grow them, cordons or fans on the red currants and the white currants. But let's take this black currant and put this into the garden. In fact, we'll take them both. We're going to plant this one into the garden. So what we need to do is to dig a good sized hole for our plant, and bear in mind a black currant, red currant or gooseberry can grow anything from 3 to 5 feet tall depending on the variety, and a similar spread. Red currants tend to be probably the biggest of the lot. What I'm planting here is a variety called Big Ben. This is a black currant. And it's called Big Ben because it produces big black berries, so it's a really juicy fleshy berry, so great for using in pies and this type of thing. So we've got a couple here. I'm going to plant just the one, and I'm going to plant this one because I'm going to show you then how to prune it. So if you grow or you buy a black currant and you think it looks a bit spindly on the top, don't worry too much about it. So what I've done is dug out a hole there, just put the pot in there, and I'm making it a little bit deeper. Now normally we would only plant so that the root ball is at the surface, but with currant bushes we can go a little bit deeper. Certainly with black currants we go a little bit deeper. And then what I'm going to do, they're really greedy feeders. I've got some of our homemade compost here that came out of the compost bin, so I'm just going to fork a little bit of that into the base. So again, that will just help to retain the moisture and encourage those roots down. They like a good rich soil. So just firm that down a little bit. And then I'm going to knock this out of the pot, and just always good practice, any weeds or moss, I'm just going to get rid of those, put them in the pot. They can go onto the compost heap, but we don't want them growing in the garden. Okay, and if the roots are congested, and these aren't too bad, you would loosen them a little bit. So then it's just a case of offering that into the hole like that, and we can see again it's just that little bit lower. And then what I'm going to do is fill it in. But if you look here, just before I do fill it in, all around the base here there are buds that are just starting to grow. A nice big fat one there, couple here, there, all these dormant buds which will grow from below ground level, and that's what we want with the blackcurrant. We want lots of growth from the base. So I'm just then going to fill this in, pulling the soil back in gently round there. And then I'm going to give that a firm with my heel. We need to make sure that the soil isn't too loose, because it will not only blow around but it just dries out very quickly. So just firm that a little, and then we can just rake the soil. Now what I'm going to do next might look a bit drastic, and you might think, oh no, what is he doing? Because in theory we would get a little bit of fruit off this. We wouldn't get a lot of fruit, and on this one, if we planted this one here, this has got a bit more growth, and this would produce even more fruit. But with any plant, whether it's an apple or a pear or a blackcurrant or a red currant, if we plant it and expect it to fruit in its first year, it weakens the plant. what we need to do in that first year is really to get its roots out into the soil and establish and make lots of top growth, so that in subsequent years it will be stronger and healthy and produce a better crop of fruit. So what I'm going to do is get my secateurs and I'm going to prune it. That's a little bit of dead there, so I'm going to take that off anyway, and then I'm going to literally cut that down to there and that down to there. So it's quite harsh, as you can see. I've taken everything off there, so I hope you all got that, because we can't do this a second time. I've cut all of that off and I've left literally those dormant buds below, and it's already got some little buds there. So what that will do now, instead of having a weak top on it, it will produce some really strong growth, and I'm going to feed that when it starts to grow with the general fertilizer, and that will encourage more growth, and I'm expecting that to be up here by the end of this growing season, and then next year every one of those branches will produce a really good crop of sweet berries. So it looks quite drastic, but it really pays dividends for the future, and it gives you a strong bush. So I would do exactly the same with that one. I would plant it to there in the soil where my fingers are, and then I would cut all of these branches hard back to encourage that growth. And the final thing I'm going to do is just put a little bit more of compost just around it, just to make sure it's got a nice mulch of compost like that. And what I will probably do is put a cane in and a label, because otherwise you won't know where that is until it starts to grow. So now is the perfect time. If you're thinking of introducing some soft fruit bushes to the garden, do it. But what you can do, of course, with your red currant, blackcurrant, prune them hard back, but not with the gooseberry. You'd leave a gooseberry to be nice and bushy. So look forward to fruit in the garden for years to come. Well, thank you for watching Pots and Trowels. Remember, all our gardening videos over the past 2 or 3 years can be found on YouTube. So just search for Pots and Trowels and look back at what we've been doing. Next week, we're going to be back in the veg plot. I'm going to show you how to rejuvenate an old clump of rhubarb. So we'll see you then. Bye.